Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to East Rose Fellowship Unitarian Universalist on this beautiful, finally sunny day. Everyone here in the chapel, which is a beautiful turnout, and all of you at home. Welcome to first-time visitors. We're very happy you're here with us today. And I'm Cynthia Hopkins, your worship leader. Today, our minister, Reverend Landerman Zucker, considers the question, and this is a deep one, chasing immortality. Would you want to live forever? Music for this service, I know you don't see Mary Reese or anyone at the piano, but Mary recorded all the music for us today. And we have song leaders, Tyler Perez and Luna Conrad will lead us in singing the hymns. John Netherton is in the AV booth, along with Luna. She's a very busy lady today. Tara Toler is going to read the children's story, and our greeters, Iris and Patty, welcomed all of us when we came. Memorial Day is tomorrow. There are many traditions associated with Memorial Day. Decorating graves, flying the flag at half-staff until noon, pausing at 3 p.m. local time for a moment of remembrance. Many people, me included, wear a red poppy, a tradition begun after World War I. I do this to honor my grandfather, Ralph Elder, who, as a very young man, was drafted to fight in the trenches in a machine gun battalion in France in that bloody war. I'd like to recognize any veterans in our congregation this morning. If you don't mind, would you please stand? Yay, thank you for your service. For you and any veterans watching online, thank you for serving your country. East Rose acknowledges that for at least 13,000 years, many tribes and bands of Native Americans have made their lives here, where our church home and our communities now exist. We remember and honor these people who made their homes in this land, the ones here now and those who lived here before. In peace, may we share this land and honor one another. Let's take a moment right now to greet folks online by standing and turning around. The cameras are right there under the clock, and wave hello to our friends at home, and then turn and greet each other here in the sanctuary. I like all the energy in the room. It's so exciting. For our online guests, we hope you'll identify yourself in the chat. There is a way to do that so that we may better acknowledge your presence with us today. Also, if you would like to share during the joys and sorrows later in the service, you can share by typing your information in the chat space. Then we will be able to share your words with everyone here. Our call to worship today is entitled Memorial Day by Lynn Unger. Perhaps it's time for a new holiday, Leave the last Monday of May to honor those who died in service to their nation. Find a new date to mourn those who died in service to a nation's faith in violence, its dedication to the illusion of control, its religious fervor to punish whoever we tag as the source of our pain. Find a day to mourn the unwilling martyrs to the cause. Dwell for an hour or a silent minute in the grief we keep trying to tuck away. Empty your pockets of the store of incredulity you have gathered for so long. Breathe through the horror that it has happened again and again and again and again. For the flicker of a thought, admit that the murder of innocence is built into the system. Now turn and find someone who has a dream or scheme of a different system. Start with silence. Breathe together. Only then find a way to get loud. Our chalice lighter today is Sue Stewart. And the lighting words are by Lori Gorgas-Laban. Birth is a miracle of love and courage, bringing light into the world. Death is a loss of light, but no less an act of courage, for we are born from and return to mystery.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My opening words today are by my retired colleague, the Reverend Barbara Merritt, who served our congregation in Worcester, Massachusetts for many years. It's called Ways I Don't Want to Die. Barbara always had a good sense of humor. She writes, "Ways I don't want to die. Skiing into a tree while on a tryst with my married lover. Showing a friend how to use my unloaded handgun. Climbing a mountain because it's there. Misremembering the rhyme to identify a coral snake. Is it red touches yellow kills a fellow, or red touches black it will attack? Saying, I will if you will, to any situation. Stepping off a cliff while trying to get a great selfie to send to my girlfriend at home with the flu. Choosing the Bates Motel as a refuge in a rainstorm. Using hairspray to stop the attack of a grizzly bear, mistaking it for a can of mace. attempting to pet a wild chimpanzee after a superficial reading of Jane Goodall. Believing anyone, anytime, before any activity who says to me, "This is absolutely safe." Being the only recorded individual who lets go of the rope during an outward bound exercise, finding myself downward bound. And reassuring my friends who are frantically leaving the water, I think I know a dolphin when I see one. We also have recorded music for the hymns. I'm going to ask Luna to come up. Luna is going to lead us. Our first hymn is number 6, Just as Long as I Have Breath. Luna and Tyler are going to lead us. So if you will rise, the words will also be on the screen, but it's number 6 in the gray hymnal, Just as Long as I Have Breath.
Good morning, everyone. Today's story is called The Memory Tree by Britta Teckentrup. It explores an important and difficult topic, the death of a loved one. Maybe you've experienced the loss of a person or a pet that was very special to you. It can be hard to talk about. When someone we care about dies, it's normal to feel very sad and to miss them a lot. It's okay to feel this way, and it's good to talk about our feelings. The memories we have of our loved ones can help us feel better. Thinking about them and sharing them can be very comforting and bring us peace. Memories can be stories, pictures, or objects that remind us of the person or animal we lost. Some people like to keep special items on display while others bring them out from time to time. No matter how we choose to remember, memories of our loved ones help us feel the love we shared, keeping it alive in our hearts even after they're gone. So that's what this story is all about. And if you've ever lost someone, I invite you to hold them in your heart as you listen. The Memory Tree. There was once a fox who lived with all the other animals in the forest. Fox had lived a long and happy life, but now he was tired. Very slowly, Fox made his way to his favorite spot in the clearing. He looked at his beloved forest one last time and lay down. Fox closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and fell asleep forever. Everything around Fox was still and peaceful. Snow began to fall, gently covering him with a soft blanket. Owl had watched Fox from the top of his tree. He flew down and landed next to his friend. Owl was very sad. He had known Fox for a long time, but Owl knew the time had come for his friend to leave. One by one, Fox's friends came to the clearing. First squirrel and weasel, then bear, deer, and bird, and finally rabbit, mouse, and others came to sit by Fox. Fox had been loved by everyone. He had been kind and caring. No one could imagine life in the forest without him. The animals sat in silence for a very long time. Owl was the first to speak. He smiled warmly and said, "I remember when Fox and I were very young. Every autumn we raced to see who could catch more falling leaves." The other animals remembered and smiled. Mouse said softly, "I remember how much Fox loved the sunset. He always sat at this exact spot." The animals remembered. Many of them had joined Fox watching the sun go down. It was a happy memory, and their sad hearts filled with warmth. Bear remembered how Fox had looked after her cubs one spring. Rabbit smiled when she told the story of how Fox had played tag with her in the tall grass. Squirrel talked about Fox helping him dig up buried nuts in the deep snow last winter. One by one, the animals remembered their favorite stories about Fox. Fox had touched the lives of all the animals in the forest with his warmth and kindness, and they all smiled, remembering. While the animals talked, a little orange plant grew out of the snow where Fox was lying. Small and delicate at first and hardly noticeable, the plant grew bigger, stronger, and more beautiful with each story. The animals talked about Fox all through the night, and in the morning, the little plant had grown into a small tree. The animals saw the tree and knew that Fox was still a part of them. During the next days, weeks, and months, the animals remembered many more stories about Fox. Their heavy hearts began to feel lighter. The more they remembered, the more the tree grew, higher and more beautiful, until it was the tallest tree in the forest, a tree made from memories and full of love. Fox's tree was big and strong enough to shelter all the animals. It was always buzzing with life. The birds built their nests among the leaves, and Owl raised his grand chicks on the branches. Squirrel found a cozy home in the trunk, and bear, deer, and rabbit slept in its shade. The tree gave strength to everyone who had loved Fox. And so Fox lived on in their hearts forever. When we lose someone special, their memory remains with us, and so a part of them lives on in us forever. And now we will leave Reverend Robin and the adults to continue this conversation while we go back to our classroom together. If the people along the center aisle will form a bridge, we'll sing the children out.
We hold you in our love as you go. May your heart be at peace as you go. To nurture the spark of your precious life, we hold you in our love as you go.
So let's just have a moment of silence before we move into our breathing to honor and remember with love all those who have served this country. And now, since you're already in a quiet place, I'll ask you to move now into our intentional meditative time. Close your eyes. If they're not closed, put your feet on the floor, uncross your arms, drop your shoulders, and take a deep breath. Feel how good it feels just to have a big exhale and start to create spaciousness from the crown of your head down to the soles of your feet that are grounded, planted. Imagine a small string pulling on the top of your head, pulling your posture up so that you are in a straight line, and that light that's going to create spaciousness, that breath, can really move through you. And breathe. 4 beats in slowly through your nose, 5 or 6 beats out slowly through your mouth in a steady rhythm, softening your face, your jaw, your shoulders, your body, your arms and hands, your torso and legs, your feet. Imagine yourself creating spaciousness in all those places, and also in places like your throat, your heart, your gut. Just breathe. 4 in through your nose, 5 or 6 out through your mouth. Do a couple more rounds of your breathing. Don't pull yourself abruptly out of your meditative place. And then when you're done, one big exhale again. The next time you want to take out your phone out of habit and just scroll, say, I think I'll breathe for 5 minutes instead. And see the different effect of that on you in the moment. Our quiet song is number 123, Spirit of Life. Many of you know it. Luna is going to come forward and lead it. And again, we're going to try very hard to follow the recorded music. It's so much harder than having someone here who's kind of collaborating with us on the rhythm. But this one we know pretty well, and we're going to remain seated.
I think we can manage this one a little bit better. Oh, yeah. All right.
All the servants of
This is a reading called Fear of Dying by Rabbi Lawrence Kushner. Several years ago, during a meeting of the board of directors of my congregation, I realized that I was wiping my eyeglasses every few minutes. It was a good meeting. People argued fair and about important religious matters, and even I managed not to say anything too stupid. It wasn't until well into the meeting that I realized that the smudge I was trying to wipe off my glasses wasn't on my glasses. It was on my left eye. It appeared almost imperceptibly, painlessly, quickly. When it didn't go away after a few days, I called my ophthalmologist. To my concern, he wanted me to come in right away. It's probably just a floater, said my wife. Don't worry, I'm sure it's nothing. And since, as an adult, I had never been hospitalized, I figured she must be right. But after a very thorough examination, my physician told me that there was something going on with my optic nerve that he could not explain, and that he wanted me to see an ophthalmic neurologist in the city. What's wrong, I asked. It's probably nothing, just a precaution. Against what? I pushed. He listed several maladies, but none were grave enough to warrant the urgency I thought I detected in his voice. After some very frontal, direct questions, such as, give me the worst possible scenario, he confessed that my symptoms could be the early signs of a brain lesion. I felt what I can only call a trembling deep inside me, and I remember thinking, so this is how it happens. One day I'm well, then suddenly and almost gracefully, I'm in possession of an all-consuming new piece of information, the probable cause of my imminent death. One minute I'm preoccupied by 1,000 daily tasks, and the next, it's as if some hand from out of nowhere has swept everything off the game board and onto the floor and replaced all my affairs with a medical diagnosis. When I was growing up in Detroit, the rabbi assigned to the youth group was Harold Hahn. He was a good rabbi and went on to assume a major pulpit. One morning, while shaving, he noticed that the razor kept slipping from his hand. Within a short time, he was dead of a brain tumor. I saw him at a convention just before he was taken, and he shared with me a passage from Kierkegaard. A tiger can jump out of the forest at any moment. So that is how it happens. Now I was scheduled for a CAT scan in 2 days. Suddenly, everything I did was suffused with meaning. I couldn't take anything for granted. The most trivial sensations became gifts. The smell of my children's hair, the sound of the dog barking, my wife's kiss, the morning coffee. Each was too precious to let go of. What can I say? I went for the CAT scan. They couldn't find anything. After 2 decades of studying Jewish mysticism, it was a miracle they could even detect a brain. The next few weeks brought more tests, all negative. I learned a new word, idiopathic, which means that the doctors don't exactly know the cause of your malady, but that you shouldn't worry. If you want, one of my physicians said, you can call it optic neuritis, an inflamed optic nerve. I got a reprieve. Whoever had pulled my file must have put it back in the life cabinet. Or as one of my congregants said, Rabbi, it's just God's way of saying, gotcha. Life, you are so sweet. Would that there be some way of getting to the heightened gratitude for life without the terror? I suppose that when organized religion works, which is more often than many of us admit, such an appreciation is given.
The Renaissance philosopher Montaigne has quipped that death has us by the scruff of the neck at every moment. But what if we knew how to escape death's stranglehold? What if we could live forever? Would you want to? I imagine this question will strike us differently depending on our age or circumstance. Soldiers on a front line certainly wish to live, if not forever. We may wish that a loved one who has left us, who has died, had lived longer, if not forever. But would you want to live forever if you could? Immortality might seem like the stuff of fantasy, myth, or science fiction, yet it is increasingly becoming the focus of real science and billions of dollars in venture capital investments. Jeff Bezos, who we're all familiar with, has invested in Altos Labs. Google has launched something called Calico, and PayPal founder Paul Thiel has pledged to fight death. Sorry, fellas. Even being rich isn't going to save you, but please, by all means, give it a go. And while you have your checkbooks open, maybe invest some resources into healthcare equity and reproductive justice. And throw in a little money for homelessness as well. My favorite example of the tech guru as immortality messiah is Kai Mills, who views death as, quote, a software error, and has a plan to fix it. The journalist Susie Weiss spent time with Mills at his home in Utah, where he is experimenting with cryopreserving techniques he plans to use on his parents. Now, as Mormons, he explains, they're just transhumanists who believe they are eternal already. So why not? It's just a little, like, add-on, like a little upgrade, like you would do with an airline. Now, in 2022, Mills launched his company CryoPets, which aims to preserve our I'm not making this up, our freshly deceased fur babies and eventually humans forever, or until they can be thawed, healed, or set loose for a second coming. But watch out for the freezer burn. That could be a while. He's already experimenting on Jasper, an 80-pound labradoodle with degenerative hip dysplasia. In brief, the process involves a low-pressurized vessel, liquid nitrogen, and a temperature-controlled facility. Now, shout out to my nearly 10-year-old dog, Billy. Don't worry, you're safe. As we know, the practice of cryogenics has been around, or cryonics has been around since the 1950s, beginning with the freezing of sperm and eggs, which has turned out to be a very positive thing. Apparently, about 500 people are currently in a state of suspended animation globally, including a techno-optimist cemetery in Scottsdale, Arizona. Wow. But in the history of the practice, not a single human has ever been revived after being frozen. There's the rub. Now, according to Weiss, the journalist, deciding that death is just another coding error has become something of a Silicon Valley bar mitzvah of late. When you reach a certain age and net worth, it's time to start figuring out how to live forever. Now, a portion of the venture money is going into the use of artificial intelligence, AI, and other cutting-edge biomedicine that could replace joints with AI-powered ones and perfect the technology to upload one's consciousness to the cloud. Does my consciousness really need or want to achieve immortality? There are a lot of tumbleweeds up there. I'm not sure what would be uploaded. My sermons, some of my ideas, but honestly? Here's what the cryo dude in Utah has to say when asked what immortality would be like. He says, living forever equals eternal progression. We should become gods and create for eternity. Hubris much? I'd say that the prospect of immortality raises some very thorny questions. Would the option be available to everyone eventually, or just the wealthy? Could you opt out of eternal life if it became available? Would we still gain the empathy, wisdom, insight, and compassion that comes from living a human life and comes with age? Would we care more or less about our relationships, our planet, our fellow human beings? Now, trying to live forever is a tale as old as time. One of our species' oldest stories, written 4,000 years ago, is called the Epic of Gilgamesh. It's about that very longing. After his best friend's death, this wild beast of a king is forced to confront his own mortality. "Must I die too?" he cries to the heavens. So he sets out on a mission to overcome death, and he fails. And guess what? He uncovers the meaning of life instead. We also have very well-loved classic children's stories like Tuck Everlasting. We have classic Twilight Zone episodes, and we have the very funny film Death Becomes Her. Now, current popular culture loves to indulge its obsession with plot lines on this topic. For instance, in the mega TV hit Succession, which some of you may have watched, we are introduced to a project called Living Plus, a luxury senior living development in which only the elite have access to the latest cutting-edge life extension therapies. Kendall Roy tries to wow his Waystar Royco shareholders with this concept, exhorting them that his communities will enable the lucky residents to live more forever. More forever? And they just sit there stone-faced. Now, maybe they were just doing the math or checking their 401ks or their stock options, and frankly, living forever isn't going to make even one character in this television series more likable. They can live for thousands of years, they're not going to be more likable. In her intriguing novel, Eternal Life, the writer Dara Horn introduces us to Rachel, a suburban great-grandmother recently widowed with a ne'er-do-well son living in the basement. But what her family doesn't know is that she's actually a 2,000-some-odd-year-old woman who was burned to death and wakes up in an 18-year-old body for millennia. So she just keeps regenerating. This may sound appealing, but for Rachel, her life is coated in thick layers of grief and the loss of scores of loved ones who have died over time. She's not fully alive, despite being immortal. Rachel is eager to die, but she can't. The hard part isn't living forever, she observes. It's making life worth living when you're going to live forever. And you know, this is true whether you are eternal, whether you're chasing immortality, or none of the above. Life is finite. That is the point. We each have an expiration date. But this fact provides the impetus for living fully and presently. The longevity entrepreneurs either miss this point or they are just determined to ignore it or try to circumvent it. The writer Barbara Ehrenreich, who has explored so many dimensions of human life, tells us that realistically, you can think of life as an interruption of eternity and seize it as a brief opportunity to observe and interact with the ever-surprising, pulsing world around us and within us. The internet, social media, everywhere we look, it's chock full of individuals voicing their dismay over this drive to live forever. Jay Kim, who is the pastor of the Westgate Church in San Jose, California, smack in the middle of Silicon Valley, remarks that in the digital age, we're losing humility. We may still have curiosity, but we're losing wonder. Instead, we see everything as a problem to solve, including mortality. He calls death a natural part of the human process, and that trying to cheat death with science is arrogant and a massive time waster. We can spend thousands of dollars on life extenders, serums, Botox, supplements, and still get taken out by an anvil falling from a window. We still might get our file pulled, just like in the reading. I'd argue that most of us don't want to die or watch our loved ones die, whether it's peacefully in the best case scenarios, or in one of those possibilities offered by my colleague, the Reverend Barbara Merritt, in her witty reflection, Ways I Don't Want to Die, which I read earlier. To remind you, showing a friend how to use an unloaded handgun, misremembering the rhyme to identify a coral snake, skiing into a tree while on a tryst with my married lover, and my favorite, reassuring my friend who is frantically leaving the water, I think I know a dolphin when I see one. Now, Merritt makes light of some of the ways folks inadvertently and quite stupidly shuffle off their mortal coil, especially in this TikTok challenge era, and people taking selfies of themselves with, you know, what do they call them, the furry cows, the bison. As a minister, Barbara Merritt ponders death as a matter of course, and so do I. It's one of our perpetual mental tumbleweeds as clergy. I've discovered that Bhutanese folklore suggests that to be happy, one ought to contemplate death 5 times a day. There is a present-day phone app. It's called We Croak. Look it up. It's called We Croak, and it is based on this practice. It sends you an alert 5 times a day that encourages you to contemplate death. What do you think about that? What is your death pondering quotient? Rarely, occasionally, daily, obsessively? Would these alerts wake you up to the moment or freeze you with dread? It's worth a try. Certainly the point of the app is not to freeze you with dread. It's to wake you up to the moment. I am alive right now. What am I doing? But we croak. We may push off these thoughts because they can be unsettling. The pandemic brought that uncertainty sharply into focus. Yet I couldn't help but nod and giggle at a recent New Yorker cartoon in which a man reads his fortune cookie with a furrowed brow to his companion. It says, "Someday you will die." She's just looking at him like, "That's your fortune?" No, but it is his destiny as a finite human being. But nobody really wants that fortune cookie. Too often we're so afraid of dying that we forget to live. And we don't like such direct, snarky fortune cookie reminders after our sesame chicken and dumplings. Now, the Rabbi Lawrence Kushner underscores this point with his retelling of his own health scare and musing about his mortality in the moving reflection, Fear of Dying, which Cynthia offered to us. He writes in such a relatable way. 1 minute, I'm preoccupied by 1,000 daily tasks, and the next, it's as if some hand from out of nowhere has swept everything off the game board and onto the floor and replaced all my affairs with a medical diagnosis. Kushner learns that he's not dying, at least not imminently, and he recalls that suddenly everything I did was infused with meaning. I couldn't take anything for granted. The most trivial sensations became gifts. The smell of my children's hair, the sound of the dog barking, my wife's kiss, the morning coffee. Each was too precious to let go of. Life, you are so sweet, he proclaims. Would that there would be some way to get to that heightened gratitude of life without the terror. And I would add, without a counterproductive chase for immortality. I imagine Kushner would appreciate an article I read recently called Time Billionaires by Sahil Bloom. It focuses on an idea first proposed in 2019 by Graham Duncan, the co-founder of East Rock Capital. He said, "We are all time billionaires, and that time is the most valuable and precious resource we possess as humans. 1,000,000 seconds is 11 days, he explains. 1,000,000,000 seconds is slightly over 31 years. In our culture, we are so focused on money, we deify dollar billionaires. But as Duncan points out, we don't relate to ourselves as time billionaires. Most of us fail to realize the value of this asset until it's gone or dwindled down to reserves or we feel it slipping away." The Stoic philosopher Seneca tells us we are not given a short life, but we make it short when we are wasteful of it. Being a time billionaire is about embracing the shortness or finitude of life and finding joy in everyday moments of beauty and tragedy, joy and sorrow, the mundane and the exciting, solitude and connection. Kushner's remark about life being so sweet reminded me of Thornton Wilder's classic Our Town, and the character Emily Webb Gibbs, who, many years dead, is given the opportunity to return home on the occasion of her 12th birthday. And she recognizes and hears all this trivial chatter as she observes the scene in the kitchen. And eventually she turns anguished to the stage manager and asks, "Do any human beings ever realize life while they live it, every minute?" "No," replies the stage manager. "The saints and poets, maybe, they do some." And Emily goes back up the hill. My friends, try to realize life while you are living it. Forget immortality. Be a time billionaire instead, who treats the seconds, minutes, and hours as your ultimate currency. Spend it wisely with those you love, for causes that matter to you, in ways you'll never regret. Leave a legacy to your descendants that they will honor and emulate. Don't be afraid to die today, but expect life, because life can be so sweet. Life can be a carnival, and it all goes so fast. Blessed be, blessed we, and amen. Once again, Luna will come forward to lead our final hymn. It's number 354 in the gray hymnal. We laugh, we cry. We will only be singing the first and third verse today. Please rise as you are able.
And this one is fast. I'm warning you now. We're going to try our best. It's fast, it's complicated. But enough of you were inquired with your sight reading ability. In fact, if you're inquired, you should have to go back. It's better.
We
In the words of Eric Walker Wickstrom, it is said the Lord loves a cheerful giver, yet will accept from a grouch as well. Let each of us look into not just our wallets or our checkbooks to see how much we have with us. Let us also look into our hearts and see what is available there. How much love, how much generosity, how much faith, how much gratitude, how much hope. And let us take our offering from that account. Half of each week's Sunday collection is shared with a local nonprofit. And for the months of April, May, and June, we share with East County Rising Community Projects, a grassroots organization in this very area, energizing East Multnomah County residents to create equitable living communities centering underrepresented and marginalized people. If you're a first-time visitor, let the basket pass you by, please. You're our guest. We will now take up the offering, and Keena's going to help me. Whoop, let me go this way. The chalice are by Amy Zucker Morgenstern. When we take fire from our chalice, it does not become less, it becomes more. And so we extinguish our chalice, but we take its light and warmth with us, multiplying their power by all of our lives and sharing it with the world.
Our benediction today is by Donna Markova. I will not die an unlived life. I will not die an unlived life. I will not live in fear of falling or catching fire. I choose to inhabit my days, to allow my living to open me, to make me less afraid, more accessible, to loosen my heart until it becomes a wing, a torch, a promise. I choose to risk my significance, to live so that which came from me as a seed goes on next as blossom, and that which came to me as blossom goes on as fruit. Blessed be, blessed we, and amen.
We have a number of announcements, and Reverend Robin would like to make the first one.
Hi, everyone. So I think you know next week is the congregational meeting, and
No, I'm going to talk about that.
yes, and then on the 9th, we're going to have our potluck. On June 9th, I'm going to be preaching about Unitarian Universalism as an evolving faith, as a prelude to General Assembly, and I will be talking about the revision of Article 2 and sort of all of the backward and forward that has gone into that and how different people feel about that, and I'm interested in how you all feel about that. Now, as I explained to Linda, we can really only have any impact on what happens with Article 2 if we have a delegate at General Assembly. That's how our process works. It's a democracy. So once again, we are entitled to 2 delegates. You need to be a member to be a delegate. General Assembly is completely online this year, so you don't need to travel anywhere. And we have funds to pay for your registration. The requirement is that you be a member and that you are willing to attend the plenaries where the votes are taken and vote on behalf of the congregation. So I'm really encouraging someone who fits that profile, the availability, being a member, feeling motivated. There's lots of other cool stuff to attend at General Assembly, workshops, worship services. It's really great. And, you know, next year it's going to be live in Baltimore, which will also be great. So if you feel like you can attend General Assembly on our nickel, attend plenaries, vote on our behalf, then please see me or Cynthia, and we'll get you connected to register and get your delegate credentials.
Did you give the dates?
It's June 19th to the 23rd, something like that. Yeah, it's Thursday through Sunday. But the plenaries where these votes will take place will undoubtedly, I would think, be on Thursday, Friday, or Saturday at the latest. And please consider it if you think you can participate and represent us and cast a vote on our behalf. Anne?
Could you say briefly what that change in the...
Well, I'm going to preach about it on June 9th.
Oh, so it's a surprise.
No, it's not a surprise. You can read reams and reams of material about it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it is not something we can just do as an aside. It's
Go to UA.org and put into the search bar Article 2 revision, and you will have plenty of stuff. We've also put things in our newsletter that direct you to some debates that are happening around it and what those debates are about.
Panels has good information on Article 2.
Yeah.
Also.
Okay, I have other announcements,
Okay,
moving on. And I do want to clarify that Barbara Stevens was scheduled to play piano for us this morning, but she is not well. And Mary stepped up, she has another commitment this Sunday, so she stepped up and did the recordings, and Luna and Tyler stepped up to lead the singing.
I also mastered the recordings.
Yes, thank you. All that AV stuff, yes. So this announcement is very important. Next Sunday, June 2nd, following the service at 12:15, we are not going to potluck. We will have our annual congregational meeting. This is a very important time when members of East Rose vote on a budget for the coming fiscal year and also on new members of the board of trustees. We will serve light refreshments after the service, so you won't have to deal with all this on an empty stomach. And all members are receiving a letter in the mail, a postal mail, with details. You may participate in person or via Zoom. This Saturday, the day before the congregational meeting, there will be a Zoom-only session at 1 o'clock. The link is in the pedals this week, and it'll be in the pedals next week. For any member who wants to participate in a deep dive discussion about the proposed budget. There simply is not time to do this in the meeting with all the other voting we need to do and installing new members, etc. So this will happen on Saturday at 1 o'clock. And this is the time to ask any questions you have a budget or share your thoughts. I can give you a sneak peek of one of the things I'm going to tell you next week. There is good news. So,
And Cynthia,
yes.
just to be clear, only members can vote at our congregational meeting.
That's correct.
So if you've been thinking about becoming a member and you'd like to become a member, please see me after the service.
Yes, please. We have welcomed 13 new members already this year, so we're on a roll. Okay, work party outdoors, June 1st, from 9 to 12, and then after you're done with that, you can come in and go to the budget meeting if you're not worn out, you know. It's up to you. Well, no, it's Zoom only, so you'll have to go home and Zoom it. All hands are needed and welcome, guaranteed good weather, and that's from Keen, if you have any questions about that. See Keen, the weather guy for the church. Also, Keen is going to let us know that our normal monthly snowcap work party has been canceled. Snowcap canceled it, but we'll be back in July, so you'll hear about that then. And from Sherry and Cheryl. Cheryl, come on in. She's standing outside the glass. You guys, this is Cheryl. And if you come in on like a Tuesday or Wednesday, or both, I forget, she's here helping Sherry. She's been doing wonderful things around the church for us, stuff that needed to be done, including a lot of cleaning up of things. So this is from both of them. We have an abundance of serving pieces, platters, bowls, etc., ready to go home, whether their previous home or a new one. So everyone, please take a look at the lost and found cart in the hallway. You can hardly miss it on your way back to the coffee. And if one of those things is yours, go ahead and take it. Take it home. And I suspect after that, it's up for grabs if you want it.
Reminder, Tuesdays, 12 to 1, lunch with the minister, stop in.
Yeah, stop in. I believe that is all of the announcements for today. So those at East Rose are invited to remain, have some coffee, and visit. The service is now ended. Goodbye to our friends online. We hope to see everybody next week. And bring a friend with you.
The choir will be singing.
Oh, yes. Listen, we're going to have refreshments. The choir's going to be singing. You got to come. It's congregational meeting. It's going to be really good. It's going to be really good. Thank you all. Off to coffee now.
The whole service